All right, y'all. So I'm getting ready for bed, but I kind of wanted to share just a little something that I read recently, and it's in Romans. So it's Romans 8, starting in verse 12, and it says, "So then, brothers, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by Spirit you put death to the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father." So basically, like, kind of when I read this, it was kind of a deal of like, God gave us the ability to either choose the things of the world or the things of God. But it says very clear, like, we are debtors not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. But verse 13 it says it right here. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But I think it's a perfect example of, like, when we try and put all of our priorities and we try to prioritize things of the world over the things of God, like, you are destined for hell. And that's not to say, like I've put my faith in Jesus. I know I'm saved, but at the end of the day, it's like I still have to make that conscious effort to choose to do the things of God, to go out of my way, to choose to do, to get into the Word instead of just scrolling on Instagram. I mean, it's the little things. And this is, in this context and of the passage, just talking a little bit more of on a bigger scale. But I think it applies to more, applicable for everyday life. It's like you have to make a choice. You can either listen to a podcast on your way into school, or you can listen to music. And there's nothing wrong with either or. But at the end of the day, it's like, what am I going to do to prioritize God over the things of the world? And I think, like I said, Romans makes it very clear that, like, the things of the earth bring nothing but suffering and pain. And at the end of the day, like, the things of the flesh, the thing that the flesh and the body desires, ultimately are the one thing that distance you from the love of God. And that's why I think, too, it's like every single human on the planet, we all have the same desires and the same, things that we want as far as earthly things. And so I think that in itself kind of speaks volumes for, like, okay, like, everybody wants the same thing. That's why when God tells us, like, the things of the flesh are what separate us from God, it's because at the end of the day, we are all broken people. And so the things that pull us away from God, that's what makes us broken. That's what separates us from the love of God. And that's why I think it's important that we have to make that conscious decision and that conscious effort to do the little things right, or do the big things right, or make the conscious effort to try and be more like Jesus. And that's, like I said, whether that's getting in the Word in the morning, listening to a podcast, or worship music on your way to school or on your way to work. It's the little things like that kind of just flip your brain a little bit, right? It kind of triggers things in your brain. I know for me, I've started listening to podcasts and stuff on my way into school in the mornings, and it's really helped me just to kind of calm my mind, because I know school is extremely stressful, and it brings a lot of anxiety and frustration and other things like that. So, kind of just presetting my brain into a calm state and a relaxed state and understanding kind of what I'm getting into, it's helped me a lot. And so I think that's kind of what this verse is talking about in Romans. It's just that we have to make sure that we have a mindset and a focus of not the things of the earth and the things of the flesh, but rather focusing on the things of the Father. That was just something that's kind of been on my mind. I read it the other day, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I know I haven't done, like I said earlier, I haven't done the best job of getting on here and then talking about this sort of stuff like I should, but that's just kind of something that I read the other day, and I thought it was, very applicable, especially as, I'm wrapping up my senior year of high school and jumping into college. And so I think it was very applicable that as I go into that kind of new chapter and that new journey of life, it becomes even more important that I prioritize the things of God versus the things of the world. And so that was just kind of something that's been on my mind, and hopefully if you are struggling with kind of the same things, you can fall back on Romans 8 and kind of read through that and look at the context of what it's talking about and find joy and find comfort in that. So just thought I'd come on here and share that real quick before I jumped into bed. But I think we're gonna knock out a little bit of work and then probably head to sleep.